Members, good afternoon. It's the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call the meeting to order. This is the Subcommittee on Matters Relating to the Development of Smart City. The first item on the agenda is update on the implementation of smart mobility initiatives. We have Mr. Liu Chen-sen, Undersecretary for Transport and Logistics, Ms. Cheng-si Ling, Principal Assistant Secretary for Transport and Logistics, and Ms. Janet Lam, Chief Electrical and Mechanical Engineer from the Transport Department, Mr. George Fong, Chief Engineer, Mr. Derek Chung, Senior Electrical and Mechanical Engineer, Mr. Samson Chan, Senior Engineer, Mr. Daniel Cheung, Deputy Commissioner from the Digital Policy Office. Members, if you would like to speak, please the request to speak button. The administration will give us a PowerPoint presentation. The administration's representatives are here with us. I'll give the floor to the administration representative for the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. I will update members on the implementation of smart mobility initiatives. In 2017 December, the government released the first smart city blueprint for Hong Kong. In July 2019, we published the Smart Mobility Roadmap for Hong Kong. In December 2020, we published the Smart City Blueprint for Hong Kong 2.0. The Transport Department updated the part on smart mobility. There are also some additions, say, for example, the setup of the Smart Traffic Fund, the traffic analytics. We want to promote R&D as well as application of technology relating to vehicles. We continue to make full use of technology. We use the latest sensing and detection, artificial intelligence, and big data analysis to meet the ever-increasing transportation and traffic demands, to enhance road use efficiency and provide citizens with a more convenient and smooth travel experience. In addition to the traffic data analytics system, opening up of estimated time of arrival data by public transport operators, and on-street parking meters supporting different payment systems. The government is also actively promoting the application of autonomous vehicles and automated parking systems, as well as improving road safety through technology. I'll defer to my colleagues from the Transport Department with the aid of the PowerPoint presentation to give you more details about the update on the implementation of the initiatives. After that, I'll be happy to take questions. Good afternoon, everyone. I will give you a report on the government's work on implementation of smart mobility initiatives. I will give you progress of the various initiatives. Then I will talk about automated parking system. Then my colleague will move on to the testing and application of autonomous vehicles. First, the government's strategies. We go along three directions. That is, the traffic data, traffic data analysis systems, application of technology as well as data sharing. We make use of sensing and detection devices. We make use of big data as well as AI to meet increasing traffic demand, to improve road use efficiency. We also adopt an approach of people-oriented to enhance the experience of travel. First, progress of the various initiatives. To enable us to get a better picture of the traffic situation, we have made use of AI and big data to develop a traffic data analytics system. We make use of government information as well as real-time traffic information, weather information, and provide real-time arrival and traffic information. We also predict the traffic situation in the coming 15 to 90 minutes. We have published the information on real-time information and our predictions starting from April of 2022. In 2024, we have incorporated real-time location data of some franchised buses. On roadside parking meters, we want to make better use of technology to make it easier for people to find meters. We have replaced all on-street parking meters. The latest ones are equipped with sensors to detect whether there is a vehicle parked there. We have replaced close to 11,000 parking meters. Drivers can make use of the Hong Kong e-meter to find vacant parking meters. This will reduce the need to circulate in the road. The app also supports remote payment or on-site payment. It supports different e-wallets as well as different payment systems. For the latest system, we handle about 160,000 transactions. 60% of them are paid making use of the app Hong Kong e-meter. Between May and December 2023, we have by phases implement Hong Kong e-toll at various government tolls and access roads. Toll fees can be paid remotely. This will save drivers having to stop at the toll plaza, causing congestions. This is better and more efficient travel experience. Currently, we handle about 580,000 vehicle trips. The operators has issued 820,000 vehicle tags. Hong Kong e-toll has given us the technology basis to implement time-varying tolls to ease traffic congestions at tunnels. In May, we will take over Tai Lam Tunnel. We plan to implement Hong Kong e-toll there. There will also be time-varying toll system put in place at Tai Lam Tunnel when that happens. In relation to real-time traffic adjustment systems, in 2021, the Transport Department put in place a pilot scheme to install the system at 5 standalone signal control junctions. We make use of sensors installed there to detect real-time traffic. Then the data is analyzed to make adjustments to the signal to reduce unnecessary waiting time. In 2022, we have installed the system at 8 linked signal controlled intersections. We find that waiting time has been cut by 5 to 10%. These systems are running smoothly. In the future, we will extend the system to 50 suitable standalone junctions. We obtained funding approval in June last year. We have started consultant study. We will start installing the systems starting from 2026. At busy interlinked, interconnected signal control junctions, we want to make use of other technologies, including those technologies from the mainland. We will work with relevant government departments to install the real-time adaptive traffic signal system at suitable locations. In 2024, the law was passed to enable e-enforcement. Traffic wardens can, by electronic means, issue fixed penalty tickets. By phases, we will replace the paper form fixed penalty tickets. Starting from the 18th of November last year, we have been collecting electronic contact information from drivers and various parties. We're doing the last stage testing. The police will also develop a dedicated site on e-enforcement so that members of the public can obtain information and handle fixed penalty ticket issues on the website. We will launch the system by phases starting from the first half of this year. To meet increasing demand for licensing service, we have put in place an e-licensing service as well as streamlining procedures. Starting from December last year, the paper form vehicle license, that is the one that is stuck on the inside of the windscreen, will not show the expiry date. That means at the time of renewal of the vehicle license, there is no need to replace that paper form vehicle license. At the same time, we have streamlined licensing procedures. There is no need to submit the licensing document at the time of renewal. There is also no need to give us the vehicle testing certificate. In December last year, we have launched the e-licensing service. The public can find information about applications under process. We plan to launch e-driving license this year. When that is put in place, drivers can choose to carry with them the physical driving license or have it installed on their smartphone. Another initiative is automated parking system. This makes it more efficient to make use of limited space to increase parking density. There are 5 different types: the puzzle stacking type, a vertical lifting and a horizontal sliding type, circular shafting lifting type, tower lifting system, automated guided vehicles. They are suitable for different scenarios. At the same time, when we promote automated parking systems, we have to make sure that the systems are efficient and safe. So there are relevant requirements. The system is under the regulation of the Lift and Escalators Ordinance. When the EMSD process the applications, they have to make sure that there is sufficient alert and security safety systems put in place. The EMSD has issued the guideline for implementing a mechanized vehicle parking system. All relevant requirements, say for example fire installation service, will have to meet the requirements of the FSD. From November 2021, we have implemented the first project at Chun Wan Hoi Shing Road. Afterwards, at Pak Shek Kok in Tai Po and Tung Chau Street in Sham Shui Po, we have put in place other systems. There will be more such systems at various places. Upcoming projects are automated parking systems at car parks with a short-term tenancy at Hoi Wong To Yau Ma Tei. And there is also the joint user government complex using the puzzle stacking type. At the district open space at Zimei Road, it uses the vertical lifting and horizontal sliding type. We will start the tender exercise within this year for 2 car parks of short-term tenancy in relation to the use of automated parking systems. There are additional projects. One is at the Hong Kong port. They are for transit passengers visiting from Guangdong and Macau. We're working out the details with the airport authority. Details will be announced once finalized.
I will now brief members on the latest progress of the promotion of autonomous vehicles. There are 6 grades, and the highest we have reached the 4th tier. That is, it can continuously conduct autonomous driving missions. Since 2017, the Transport Department has issued movement permits to allow trials of autonomous vehicles, and there were already 23 autonomous vehicles that were issued with permits at 12 different locations. Right now, we have 7 autonomous vehicles being trialed at 4 locations, including the Science Park, Fairfield Park, Yuen Long Tam-Mei Construction Sector, Imported Labor Quarters, and the Tuen Mun Long Mun Road Eco Park. In order to trial AVs for passenger services in more complex conditions, we have now a regulatory framework, and we have implemented it in March of last year. The Transport Department also issued the Code of Practice for Trial and Pilot Use of Autonomous Vehicles that would set out the safety and operational requirements. And based under the new regulatory framework, we will have reference to the functions of the autonomous vehicles, national standards and guidelines, and the road test conditions, etc. when issuing the relevant permits and certificates. We will also ask the operators to consult stakeholders to ensure the effective implementation of pilots. We have adopted a flexible approach to accommodate the latest technologies and allow for the flexible applications of the pilot trials. Under the new regulatory framework, pilot proprietors would need to apply for pilot licenses and autonomous vehicle certificates. At this stage, the Transport Department would review the local traffic situation views of key stakeholders, as well as the proprietor's operations, and then the pilot's licenses and certificates will be issued that would allow for pilots to be performed in specific areas. On the premise of safety, the Transport Department will offer a flexible approach that would allow for driverless applications. For example, if the vehicles do not have drivers in the first place, there would not be any, say, seatbelt requirements imposed. The Transport Department will update legislation if necessary to accommodate the latest developments of autonomous vehicles. Hong Kong is limited in resources, especially in land. We do not have large-scale sites for the testing of autonomous vehicles. Therefore, the Transport Department will adopt a flexible approach and simplify the vetting process. If the autonomous vehicles have already been tested elsewhere, we will also allow for the basic tests to be conducted, say, in the mainland before their pilots in Hong Kong. We have issued 12 movement permits, as said, 23 movement permits as said earlier, but only one can be now tested on the roads in the North Lantau project. There are 2 buses in the West Kowloon Cultural District project. The airport authority also expects at the end of 2025 there will be an autonomous transportation system connecting the Sky City at Hong Kong International Airport and the Hong Kong Port Island of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridge. In future, it should be able to connect to Tung Chung in future. The administration has all along been promoting the research of innovation and technology. We have set up the Smart Traffic Fund to promote the relevant projects. The Smart Traffic Fund accepts year-round applications supporting INT enterprises to research and develop applications in smart traffic. We have already approved 64 projects, and we have enhanced the project with reference to industry feedback. In future, we will continue to promote smart mobility. Apart from implementing existing policies, we will have reference to the latest experience of other places, the developments of innovation and technology. We want to put forward the efforts of different sectors to promote the long-term development of smart mobility. That's it for our presentation today. Thank you. We have 9 members who have pressed the request to speak button. That would be Mr. Benson Look, Mr. Chen Chen-ying, Ms. Elizabeth Kwok, Mr. Chen Siu-hong, Mr. Andrew Lam, Professor William Wong, Mr. Ma Feng Kwok, Ms. Carmen Khan, and Mr. Dennis Leung. I'll assign 4-minute time limit. Questions and answers included Mr. Benson Look. Thank you, Deputy Chairman. I have some questions for the administration. One is on the Smart Traffic Fund. I note that in the paper it says that the Smart Traffic Fund has put $146 million for the supporting of projects, and in paragraph 17 it says that there are 68 projects and it involves an amount of approximately $500 million. So that is quite a lot of the fund of the Smart Traffic Fund. So I want to ask about how much we have used and what is the cost effectiveness of the projects. We of course also want to promote convenience for the public with smart mobility initiatives, and we have various initiatives. How can we make use of these smart mobility initiatives to perhaps enhance the $2 transport concession scheme? Why am I saying this? Because the $2 transport concession scheme is to promote mobility of the elderly persons, but the government would have to pay out the rest of the amount, and we have spent approximately $7 billion in 2023-24. The problem is the elderly persons are using that for long rides when they're only taking short rides, and the government has spent $1.2 billion, and in mid-2024 the Transport Department has given a written reply to a question raised. It said that they have encouraged the transport operators to check the eligibility of people, but I think that may not be so effective. We have the Joy-U card. It is a means of preventing abuse. We have to resolve the problem of the elderly persons using these for long rides when they only need to take short rides, as well as preventing abuse. We may be able to use some technology such as facial recognition that would help us save public money. Can the government tell us their future plans? Thank you. Deputy Secretary, I'll answer the second question first. While the $2 transport concession scheme is under the purview of the LWB, we are responsible for implementation. I'll let the Transport Department colleague answer the question on the operations of the Smart Traffic Fund for the problem of the elderly persons taking long-haul buses for shorter rides. It's that the biggest problem is that for long-haul buses being occupied by short-haul passengers, it is definitely a waste of resources. That is something that we have been really paying close attention to. We haven't really promoted the use or the monitoring to all long-haul buses for resource limitation purposes, but then I think in the system we can really think about how we can make enhancements in order to prevent the problem from happening in the first place. Thank you. I'll let my Transport Department colleague answer the other questions. As said, the Smart Traffic Fund has 68 projects, and one of the projects would be the autonomous light bus project at Fairview Park. We also have the autonomous light bus project at West Kowloon Cultural District. We also have one that would run between Science Park and University Station. And we also have one that runs between the Discovery Bay and Sunny Bay, and these will be commissioned in due course. We also have some V2X projects, vehicle to everything projects, that would include V2X applications from the Science Park to Sharton Central. We will test different V2X applications with the funding of the Smart Traffic Fund. We have also some big data and forecasting applications. We also have some simulator applications that would provide training to drivers. We also have a project on sensors or monitors being installed on vehicles and would issue safety alerts if necessary. We also have some sensing systems that would help minibus drivers monitor the opening and closing of doors. We also have a project that would test whether a crane is installed while driving. For the Smart Traffic Fund, they have really supported various projects, especially the autonomous vehicle projects and V2X projects. I think the member is asking whether there are any projects with applications with large-scale, widespread use in Hong Kong. I would say this: various projects are at different stages. They are being commissioned, and in fact, the crane vehicle application has already been used by various operators. We can perhaps enhance our publicity so that the public will be more aware of such applications. Mr. Chen Chen-Ying, thank you. I have three questions on autonomous vehicles. I have visited some applications in the mainland. There are three stages. First stage, they would have a safety operator monitoring the application, and the Fairview Park project is now at this stage. In the second stage, there wouldn't be anyone monitoring the project, but it would just be point to point. In the third stage, it will be tested in the more complex conditions. I want to ask if the projects we are doing now are exactly moving forward in this direction. But as I said earlier, in the second stage, they wouldn't have anyone monitoring the operations. But right now, I think the applications are tested in more complex conditions. So I want to ask what the government's plans are. I also want to ask how many years it will take for the projects to complete. I think you've granted a 5-year funding. So is it that you expect that you would have approximately 5 years for them to complete their projects? Also, you have issued approximately 820,000 toll tax. Now, for the busier cities, they would have charging for vehicles traveling into the urban areas at peak hours. So if we are to implement that, have we resolve all the technical issues? I also note that between 2018 and 2024, 6 years, you said that the number of car parks providing vacancy information through e-mobility has increased from about 220 to 669, accounting for approximately 56% of parking spaces available for hourly parking use. Why is there such a relatively low percentage? Are the car park operators unwilling to take part in the scheme? Deputy Secretary, indeed, we are taking a gradual approach with the promotion of the autonomous vehicle applications. I'll let the TD colleagues supplement on the actual timeline. With e-toll, Hong Kong e-toll, if we are to control traffic congestion with charging, indeed, we have the conditions for that, but are we actually going to implement that? There are other considerations, and we would see if there is indeed a need for that. As for parking vacancy information, for the new developments, we already require them to provide such information. For existing car parks, we are encouraging the private operators to provide such information. For the older car parks, if they have to add this feature, it's not that easy. However, it would take time. Perhaps I'll see if the Transport Department colleague has anything to add.
好，咁多謝陳。
Thank you, Mr. Chen. First, I would like to talk about the gradual testing process of automated vehicles. Starting from the 1st of March, we have promulgated the code of practice in relation to AVs. There are requirements. We have drawn reference from requirements of testing. First, the test will be done in a closed road. There is a safety operator on board. After they have done a certain mileage, there will be open road testing with a safety operator on board. After they have accumulated the required amount of mileage, the next stage will be remote control. That means there is no safety operator on board. At that time, there will be a phased testing done, beginning with those done in a closed road before they are allowed to go on an open road. So, in general, how many years will it take to complete the entire procedure? Well, it's in terms of months, not years. It depends on the capability of the institute. There are many different organizations, testing organizations on the mainland. That's the same in Hong Kong. It depends on the capabilities of the company. Judging from my experience in the past 2-3 years, it may be as long as 9 months before they can go on an open road. But in recent days, say the test in North Lantau, it only took about a week to reach that stage. So they quickly finished the test in a closed road before they move on to an open road. That depends on the capability of the company. Dr. Elizabeth Quat. A follow-up on automated driving. Just now, someone mentioned about Fairview Park. There is an autonomous driving project there. The pilot scheme itself is good. But these pilot schemes has been tested many times. There was one at the airport, and then there was one in Science Park. But we have been following up on these companies for about 3 to 7 years. The project at Fairview Park is elementary. I don't understand why there is the need for repeated tests for the same thing. From the inception of the project to now, it's been about 2 to 3 years. It's very slow compared to the pace of technological development. I do understand that safety is of prime concern. But in a safe environment, can we remove further barriers? Don't just keep them at the testing stage. Allow them to be put to use by application so that members of the public can enjoy it or companies can use it to generate profit. If you just keep them on testing phase, then these companies will go elsewhere. We see these applications in real life scenario in Shenzhen, Shanghai, and other places. When will we see it in Hong Kong? One of the process is to modify the car from right-hand drive to right-wheel drive to left-wheel drive or the other way around. But what does that have to do with anything? Because there is no need for a steering wheel in an automated vehicle. But because of this requirement, you have to go to a workshop to get the modification done, which prolongs the time. I see that a lot of the requirements are related to safety. They are unnecessary. Will you review these requirements? You're talking about four pilot schemes. Yes, this time round at Science Park is on open road, but it's still a test. It's very slow. Would you please consider speeding it up? When it comes to smart mobility, as you know that the government is advocating low altitude economy, Hong Kong is doing the same. But in this initiative, I don't see anything relating to low altitude economy. Drones used in this way is smart mobility. Someone asked me when they are able to fly to the islands instead of having to use the ferries because they get seasick. So we have to develop an island economy. We can develop a flying service. I will answer the second question. For the first one, I'll defer to my colleague. As you know that the DFS is leading a working group on the development of low altitude economy. The TLB is also involved in it. Our secretary is the deputy head. This initiative is not put under the umbrella of smart mobility. I think it's a matter of presentation. It's not the case that we have ruled it out. So it is something that we're working on in parallel, that is the low altitude economy. We have started with sandbox projects. We have invited applications. We've received a very warm response. There are 72 applications, but it will take time until anything takes off. We also have to put in place legislative amendments. Within the short term, well, I am afraid that we are unable to give you anything in relation to like taxi by air. Yes, Dr. Quat is right. We have been doing tests starting from 2017. Well, the old regulatory framework was quite limiting. So in 2022 and 23, we started the legislative amendment exercise. The legislation was passed last year. So once the AVs have gone through the testing, then they can obtain a license. It's more attractive to the trade because in the past they could only be used in tests. Now we have completed the legislative amendment. I can see that this year there will be large-scale testing projects involving the public. For the pilot locations under the Smart Traffic Fund, there are some projects, but there are other projects that don't make use of the fund. So I think the pace of development will be faster compared to projects in the past. Mr. Shen Xiu-Hong, thank you. I'd like to thank Dr. Elizabeth Court, the Transport Department, and the TLB for making arrangements for us to visit the pilot project of AV at Fairview Park. I was a passenger. It was a nice experience. It wasn't too bumpy a ride for us, and it was safe. So the level 4 automated driving, it requires a safety operator on board. It wasn't pleasant. I really have to vent. It's fine that there is a safety operator on board in the entire journey. But there are limitations and requirements by the Transport Department. Say, stationary vehicle, then the operator is not allowed to interfere. They will have to stay there and wait for that stationary car to move away. I fully understand that there is the safety consideration. But there is technology that is being used in other places. We can introduce this technology in Hong Kong, not just use the technology to start the car, stop the car, opening and closing the doors. Yes, the intention to put safety first is good. But when it's safe, shouldn't they be allowed to test to their limits? When it's not safe, there is an automated braking system in the car to stop the car. The Transport Department has done a lot of work to facilitate testing, but don't just let these vehicles stay on a testing stage. So it has to be done by step. So they have to accumulate a certain amount of safety mileage and the number of near miss. You will have to combine it with a real life situation. It would take years to put it to proper use. That means by the time there is the northern metropolis, the system won't be put to use there. And there are also other technologies involved, say, for example, 5G and others. So you have to take a comprehensive view. Can you expedite the entire process? Paragraph 7, it mentioned that at 8 interconnected signal-controlled intersections in Tung Chung Town Center, there is the installation of the real-time adaptive traffic signal system. It also says that they have completed the pilot stage in 2024, and there is a reduction of waiting time by 5 to 10%. And the operational efficiency of the intersections has improved. Are you talking about the standalone junctions or interconnected junctions with that figure? The automated parking system. But it's not very useful, especially for drivers of electric cars, because there are no charging points. But I understand that, these systems can be equipped with charging points. In the future, when you have a new system to put in place, will you include charging points as one of the requirements? I will answer question 3. For questions 1 to 2, I'll defer to the Transport Department. We understand that there is a need for charging points, and that is and we need that for automated parking systems as well. But in the market, it's not easy to find a charging system that can be widely used and is feasible. Also, you need to have the electricity supply. But if the condition is right, we want it to be used. Someone mentioned that, you may not get a GFA exemption if you don't provide sufficient charging points. We want to remove barriers as far as we can. I think, in principle, it is feasible. It's a matter of ironing out the details. I'll defer to the TD. To answer Mr. Chan's first question. Well, I thank Mr. Chen for giving me a chance to answer a question asked by Dr. Quat, that is in relation to limitations of the TD, right wheel drive, left wheel drive. There is no such requirement. We have never required the manufacturers to change the steering wheel from one side to another. It's not part of the requirements of autonomous vehicles. It will be steering wheelless. But the vehicles used in the pilot scheme come with a left wheel drive, but we will not stop that from being used. The vehicles can be used in the test. But the computer system will have to meet the requirements of Hong Kong's transport system. That is one that is premised on a right-wheel drive. They have to meet all the different requirements. Different companies have different capabilities. Some may have to spend a very long time to change the computer system from left wheel to right wheel. Some better ones will only take a week or so. It's not the case that the TD is tying their hands. They only need to demonstrate to us that it can move. We did not say that you're not allowed to overtake. In real life situation, when there is a stationary vehicle in front of you, of course you have to overtake. It depends. It's down to their capabilities. In the latest test we have seen, we see that they have the ability to overtake. When the vehicle travels from a slip road to the highway, or leaving or entering a roundabout, the technology can do that. There is no limitation. Referring to the code of practice, we're only talking about the amount of mileage accumulated in a closed road and an open road. You meet the target without any accidents, then you pass and can move on to the next level. We want to facilitate them to complete the tests as far as possible, but it depends on the companies.
Please answer the question briefly on traffic lights. In 2024, for the Tongchong pilot scheme has already been completed, and it would say the results would suggest that the average waiting time has decreased by approximately 20 seconds. The intersections were linked junctions. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Lam, I have two questions. I first would like to ask a question on the real-time adaptive traffic signal system. The pilot scheme was launched mid-2019. In 2021, you completed the pilot scheme on 5 standalone signal-controlled intersections in 2021. In 2022, you started pilots in 8 interconnected signal-controlled system intersections, and then you've completed the pilots in 2024, and you have engaged a consultant. And I understand that you say here you will conduct further trials at busier linked signalized junctions and explore the use of other relevant technologies, including those from the mainland. We're not talking about sophisticated technology here. It's just traffic lights, but you spent 8 years on this. So what is your goal of completing these projects, and what is going to happen in the new development areas, especially in the northern metropolis? I am very disappointed if you do not have the infrastructure in place when developing the relevant new development areas, and would have to scrap the infrastructure that you constructed recently. Now, I also want to ask about mobility for disabled persons. I have liaised with different organizations that have government funding. They have applied for funding, say, from the Innovation and Technology Fund to help disabled persons to travel through different locations, including shopping malls. But what does Hong Kong e-mobility, the app, do in helping promote mobility for disabled persons? I want to ask the government to talk more about this. Thank you. Deputy Secretary, for the 50 tests, they were already in actual usage, and we have engaged a consultant to study this. It's about us taking a gradual approach because we want to do them in batches, and basically they would monitor how we're doing essentially. And we would also have further tests. As said, we do have a clear goal. especially in the new development areas. But then for existing junctions, it will not help to install these devices because there wouldn't be any capacity in the first place. So we're selecting junctions with adequate capacity that with this system, it will actually help with the flow of the junctions. Thank you. I'll let my colleague answer the question on the functions of Hong Kong e-mobility. Thank you. For those requiring special assistance, you can see on the app specific routes that would indicate lift access. And there would also be routes showing how one can get through shopping malls. I think you really have to follow up on the issue that disabled persons face various difficulties in real life. There are indeed some black spots. Well, black spots probably would be an exaggeration. It's just that indeed disabled persons will not be able to access certain locations. And they can't really have GPS guiding them in shopping systems. So are you following up on the issue? If you are following up on the issue, you do not need to provide additional funding to the various organizations because it would just be a waste of resources. Thank you. We now have routes on the app that would show people how they can access lifts and they can avoid stairs with these routes. Thank you. Professor William Wong. I would like to follow up on a point made by Ms. Elizabeth Court. Autonomous vehicles are vessels. Left-wheel drive or right-wheel drive, it doesn't really matter. What matters is the software. And the AI of the software would have to simulate how essentially a driver would work. While we would test the software, we also need to make sure the software is up to date to make sure the system is safe. Getting back to what I wanted to ask in the first place, it is actually, before I ask about autonomous vehicles, we talked about left-wheel drive because when we visited Fairview Park earlier, it was said specifically that the vehicle had been converted from a left-wheel drive to a right-wheel drive, and it took much time. So if we are taking so much time with pilots with the conversion being done, I think it's best that we don't need conversion. I just want to let you know that this was said. I want to also ask if the government will be more proactive in promoting applications in the loop. I think we do not really have simultaneous planning of different initiatives. So I want to ask if the government will coordinate development in this regard. I have another question on the apps. You have the Hong Kong e-mobility app. One of the functions is that you would have the users find routes or the best routes. We have a lot of apps that have similar functions. So does the Hong Kong e-mobility app connect to other apps, because that would really perhaps enhance its quality because it would have the latest information. On e-licenses, we already have I Am Smart for this, and will we have the e-licenses connect to I Am Smart instead of having an independent system for these? Thank you. Transport Department colleague. Thank you. For the e-mobility app, we do have collection of data with the compiling of point-to-point routes, and we are making use of our own search engines at the moment. For e-licenses, we do understand the members' feedback, and we understand that the member wants it to connect to iAmSmart. We will definitely note the suggestion. I also asked about whether you would try to test autonomous vehicles in the loop and the software. I want to say this in particular for softwares. It is to simulate driver movements, right? And if there is progress, you want it to be updated. So is it the case that every time there is an update, you would want them to conduct further tests? Thank you. Indeed, every time the software gets an update, the Transport Department would be notified. We have to look at what the specific updates are. If the updates would affect the driving functions, we would require them to conduct tests. But with the applications, the promotion of applications proactively, we have been working with different organizations to make sure they are tested in different locations. I want to ask something. So we are actively trying to develop the loop. Why isn't the government proactively seeking operators to test the projects at the loop? Are you asking the TLB to do that? Well, I think in general, if we have connecting services in the loop, that would be ideal. Why not try to coordinate this? We do note your suggestion. We will convey your message to the relevant body or authority developing the loop. Thank you. Mr. Ma from Kwok. Autonomous vehicles would provide much convenience. I think we are lagging behind. Seriously. We can see in different mainland cities. I will not repeat what cities there are. For the buses, taxis, or other logistics vehicles, or even clinic vehicles, many are autonomous. And there are different levels of tests before implementation. We also see widespread use of low-altitude economy applications in the mainland, and they have various conferences in the mainland on this. We are seriously lagging behind. I don't even know why. You are conducting tests under a gradual approach. With less people, you can be more ambitious. With the busier conditions, then you would probably take a more prudent approach. The risks are always controlled, and we should always allow for an error margin to a certain extent because these are tests after all. So I want to ask if you are allowing to a certain extent an error margin, and with a low rate of error, you would still allow it to pass the relevant tests. And we have, of course, different standards. What standards are you adopting if you are? What conclusions have you drawn? And what is the efficiency and effectiveness of the applications? I think eventually we would want to have autonomous public transport. With reference to existing standards and progress, I don't even know how long it will take for us to have that. Some said the conditions are more complex. In Hong Kong, we have narrower roads. But then in the mainland, there are also places with narrow roads and complex road conditions, and they have managed to resolve the relevant technical difficulties. Have you talked to the stakeholders to find out how they could iron out these issues and find out how they were able to make great progress? And I want to know when we will able to realize the goal, and especially with tests, I think we should allow for an error margin. We can't require a 100% passing rate, and in the mainland, it seems that the results show that autonomous vehicle applications are actually safer than actual drivers.
問或者未咁
Let's see if there are other members who would also like to ask questions. Well, I thank Mr. Ma for his questions. Yes, if you look at the time span is long. After the legislative amendment, the flexibility has increased. The technology level and capability of these testing institutes has increased. We can see that. We can see that from the autonomous private cars. Regarding margin of error, I'll defer to the TD. There is no margin of error in national levels. We look at the capabilities of the companies. It's a gradual approach. So we start off with a safety operator on board, and at the end there won't be one. We have done a lot of visits. For the test of autonomous vehicles, they are done in new development areas with less traffic. The companies won't be too aggressive. They won't ask to do the test in Tsim Sha Tsui or busy areas. They will first ask to test the vehicles in less busy areas. When the technology matures, then the application will be used from less busy areas to busy areas such as town center. The Undersecretary has mentioned that there are more testing institutes with a high technology level coming to Hong Kong. After the legislative amendment, we've attracted a lot of new companies coming to Hong Kong. What about the use of autonomous vehicles in public buses? That is our goal, because this will address the problems of shortage of drivers. We want to achieve breakthroughs using autonomous vehicles in buses, but we have to have suitable vehicles, and the vehicles will have to suit our traffic condition. Let me give you an example. For buses, well, you have to pay and you have to get off the car. I understand that the technology is used in some buses on the mainland. I've seen that. They only charge a nominal fee. Some will start off with free bus rides. We will have to first test it to see how it goes. Now that the technology capabilities of these companies are stronger, I do hope that I'll see some proposals in minibuses or buses, hoping that they will be put to actual use in the end. Ms. Kamin Khan. There are a lot of initiatives in the report. A lot of work has been done in the past 2 years. But still, we are rather conservative and we lag behind. The administration will have to take stock of the situation. Why is it that we lag seriously behind the other cities in the GBA? Why do people want to go to the mainland for different things? We have the nominator, but not the denominator. In relation to the real-time adaptive traffic signal system, it says that, the entire project will be completed by the third quarter of 2027. $62 million was approved by the Finance Committee last year. We are quite anxious. Why does it take so long? How many standalone junctions can be equipped with the signal system? So I want to see by comparison whether we are conservative and slow. The Lands Department said that they will have to include clauses in suitable new land leases so that new car parks will share real-time vacancy information. Do we have to wait for new land leases? There are only 669 car parks in November 2024. How many car parks are there in Hong Kong? I want to know about the percentage of success. In paragraph 13, you see in relation to automated parking system, there is such a system at Hong Kong Port Island. It's very important. We have vehicles coming southbound to Hong Kong. There was a solicitation of comments, and it said that there needs to be sufficient parking space before it can go ahead. You said that there will be 3,000 automated parking spaces by 2026. I think we are in urgent need of these systems. I'd also like to know, how can the TLB work with the transport sector to overcome the difficulties? Well, you hear about the difficulties, say, for example, passengers taking short trips on long-distance routes. They take up the space, so someone who is riding that bus for long distance may not be able to get on. But you have not carefully studied the problem before you decide that it is insurmountable. So I would like to hear some answers. Well, how many junctions we can use the real-time signal systems as well as the percentage, I would defer to the TD, automated parking system. At the airport, we hope that before the end of this year, it will be put to use in 2 of their car parks. No, not just the airport. I want to ask about the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge Port Island. That's the one I was referring to. Is at the airport, the Hong Kong Port Island Artificial Island. The airport authority is building 2 automated car parks, one for transit passengers not entering Hong Kong. The other one is for passengers coming to Hong Kong. We expect use soon. For the automated car park for airplane passengers, the pace will be faster. They have completed the tests last year or so. In relation to passengers taking short trips in long-distance routes, we don't just consider the views of the transport operator. We also need to allow the transport department to study the data. Are there solutions? I believe there are solutions. When we have a report on the $2 transport fare, I believe that there will be measures to solve this problem. For the other 2 questions, I'll defer to the TD. Vacant parking information. There are 669 car parks, which is 56% of public parking spaces. Is public parking spaces available for hourly parking use? So it's about 1,000 parking spaces for hourly parking. What about the other question? The real-time adaptive system. Not all junctions are suitable for the system. If the junction is already saturated, the installation of the system will not help much. We make adjustments in the signal for different directions, so we have identified junctions with the most urgent needs. The project is costly, so we need to accord priority to those with a bigger need. So how many of these are suitable? Now there are only 50. I don't know what the denominator is. We have to identify junctions with a very dynamic traffic volume. Say for certain junction there is a high traffic volume. Then the system will be of use. We think that the 50 that we have identified have the biggest need. 2 members have yet to speak. I asked to extend the meeting by 10 minutes. But if there's any follow-up questions, please press the button. Otherwise, I'll draw the line here. Mr. Dennis Leung, we're here to talk about smart mobility. There are many initiatives. How many of them use AI? And the use has made a difference in terms of experience. What is the effectiveness in terms of efficiency? In paragraph 5, you talk about the traffic analytics system, traffic data analytics system. The government supply the data. How many organizations are using the traffic and data analytics system? There is the Hong Kong e-mobility. Well, I see that people use online maps. There is suggested route as well as navigation to choose from. So when a person enters the input, I want to go from point A to point B and it's taken this much time. Well, if the system can tell me that you better set off now, otherwise you will be late, will that happen? What is the operation of the system? Do you have data? Has there been any use of AI? Or will there be systems using AI to help people move about in the city? So in relation to traffic data analytics system, there are about 170,000 click rate. That means that people use the system to get data. But there is no GPS function under the Hong Kong the e-mobility. So when it comes to plotting of routes, they will use the TDAS, that is a traffic data analytics system. And a prediction is made using real-time traffic data situation to work out the journey time. And if you choose a later departure day, then an adjustment will be made using the model. But there is no prompting function to tell you that you need to start off now. Any other supplementary question? It's something that we want, but it's not done by the government. You have the system already. You need to develop more functions. Is there a function in the system to maybe alert you? You'll be able to make the calculations. Can it be done back of house? Would it be developed in the future? There is someone from the Digital Policy Office there. What is their view? The view from Mr. Leung is indeed very good. And as to whether the function will be included in the future, I'll ask the TD to look into it.
It's now my time to speak. I think most of the members mentioned autonomous vehicles. Many members were worried that we would just be conducting tests still. We have seen in the mainland autonomous vehicle applications being used in a general context now, and we already have autonomous vehicles going on motorways in the mainland. I think most members want to see a roadmap being promulgated. Having used the technologies for quite some time, and in the mainland and overseas, we have various autonomous vehicle manufacturers and service providers. And I think they want to see a clearer direction in that they are not just conducting tests. They would be able to apply their products and services on busier roads, and that they can use their applications commercially. I'll leave it up to the administration to decide, but I think providers would want to see this. We have advancements in technologies. It's not just the ITIB that should be paying close attention to the advancements. I think the different bureaus, including the Transport and Logistics Bureau, should have reference to the latest developments in technologies, and you should adopt a breakthrough mindset. But before, you would often adopt an approach that you would ask whether the applications have been used elsewhere. We really need to move fast. We shouldn't, because we're already lagging behind. We have to take an approach where we're no longer only testing applications that have already been used elsewhere. We need maybe our own products. So, say for innovative applications, can we provide them with a sandbox, maybe in the loop, for them to test applications that have not been used elsewhere before? In fact, many tech companies asked me that they have applications they have never tested elsewhere. Can they test it in Hong Kong? And I don't know the answer to that question. I think you would need to provide a clear direction for them, and I think you can adopt this mindset. Some members also asked about AI. For the first generation AI solutions, they do not have this relevant context. But with prolific data, the Transport Department is able to use AI in different applications on road capacity, electronic traffic enforcement, and we also have the geospatial lab. If we can make good use of data and the different systems, if we want them to work in a coordinated manner, do we need a command center? I think there is connectivity with data in the air and on land. If we can connect the data, say for aerial applications and on land applications, it will really help collect data to help us flesh out our functions. If you don't do that, we would miss the valuable opportunity. So have you tried to make sure there is at least interfacing, maybe a command center between the different types of data in different use scenarios? Thank you. Let me first answer the question on a roadmap, whether we can test innovative applications also. I believe the fund is funding some innovative projects. I'll let the TD colleague answer that. And on the other question on autonomous vehicles, Let me say this. We are at the beginning stage. Of course, we want to expedite our process with collection of more data, and we have confirmed our application usages. We would then promulgate a blueprint, because right now, if we promulgate a blueprint, it would just be ideas. As for whether we can have a central command center to interface the different types of data. When we visited the mainland, we did visit the city brain system, and we have seen their different AI applications. One would be in transportation. But I think we first have to have the basics in place. We shouldn't be too ambitious. If we do not even have the transportation system in place, we cannot really move forward. I'll let the TD colleague talk about testing innovative technologies. We have been liaising with local R&T enterprises. If they have some applications that we want to test out, they can always apply to the Smart Traffic Fund to test them out on the roads in Hong Kong. I think we can talk about the specifics later, but let me clarify something. I was referring to specifically traffic-related data, and that alone would have a large database. I do see two members having pressed the request to speak button. After I've drawn the line, I'll allow it, and I'll extend the meeting for a bit longer to accommodate the questions. Thank you. Mr. Ma Fung Kwok. I have a very brief question. I think I heard the Deputy Secretary say for some junctions they have no capacity and they wouldn't have the real-time adaptive traffic signal system applied to these junctions. And in the mainland, they have various GPSs that would be able to tell when the lights would turn red or green. They would have a countdown even. And these systems have been used for quite some time. We don't even have that system. As for parking vacancy information, they also provide that before people even get into the neighborhood. And I think these can all be done online. These functions can be delivered online. The technologies aren't that sophisticated. What kind of difficulties technically have you faced so far in implementing these? Thank you. With the real-time adaptive traffic signal system applications, we do note your feedback. We will review the situation. On parking vacancy information, we will continue to encourage car park operators to provide information on available parking spaces. For the newer contracts, we have already incorporated a condition related to this, and they have the facilities to implement this. But for existing car parks, they may not have the necessary infrastructure, so we are encouraging the operators to provide us with such information when they're ready. Mr. Dennis Leung, I do understand that for some junctions, they would have signals switching every 120 to 180 seconds, and they said the average waiting time would decrease passing through the intersections would decrease by approximately 5 to 10%, so that would mean approximately 6 to 18 seconds. I think you should make it easier for the public to understand. Would you have more information on how often the lights would switch? Can the Transport Department provide more information to show the actual effectiveness of the system? Transport Department, we have linked 8 junctions at one point, and we need to make sure the cycle times are coordinated. Otherwise, the vehicles would constantly have to stop at different junctions. So we need to make sure there is coordination to make sure vehicles can pass through when they want to or when they can. And we have seen the average waiting time cut by 5 to 10%. We will trial this system in other busier junctions and assess the effectiveness of the system. Thank you. Well, that ends the discussion of the first agenda item. And moving on to the second agenda item, any other business? There is no other business. The next meeting will be held between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. on 24th of February, Monday. The administration proposed to discuss the item that is update on the implementation of smart living initiatives. Do members agree to discuss this item? If members have no objections, that will be it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.